No, Adam, as a producer, you talked about this a little bit. If you can elaborate a little bit more about like how you wrangled everyone doing these multiple projects of the comics and the YouTube series and the shorts and the video game, and like how you kept everyone on track without killing people mentally.
I, you know, to be fair, I can't say there weren't casualties, but no, it's tricky. I'm thankfully I have a really good team. We have a very good production manager and production coordinator that also assists with a lot of the wrangling. So I'm able to sort of deviate and delegate a handful of things out and sort of focus on what our big picture goal is going to be. But as far as like how you go about that and what that process is, I mean, I think it's just a matter of full transparency and communication. Like there's everybody's under the same roof, and I think the trickiest part can be that communication factor, right? And I know that sounds super cliche, but I can't stress how important that is. And the littlest, smallest thing can get missed because someone either misunderstood something, or maybe I even explained something even poorly, and that can have a domino effect that'll go down the chain, and then you'll find out months later, oh my gosh, we have an issue. Where'd this come from? And then when you backtrack it, you can obviously see where all of the key moments were. So having that transparency and not feeling like you have to also hold back on, this is our current situation. I know that this might not be enjoyable or fun, but hey, here's what our ultimate goal is. That's the biggest key. And our team is extremely receptive to that, and they also have that same big goal and vision in mind. So that allowed us to really hone in on what that whole process was. And then the other cool thing about it too is because we were working on so many different projects, our team is also very familiar with what our brand is and what our goal is when making these projects. So it's also trusting in your team as well, and also knowing when that individual might also have a better idea than you, right? So as like the producer on the project, you kind of have to have that big picture, and a lot of them will basically come to you for that answer for something. But it's also very important to know when to step back and say, you know what, like I don't know this as well as you do, right? So let's help each other out, find the best solution for what it is that we're going to do in terms of the project. And that's been super helpful in a lot of many cases. A really good example is, how do we take something that people already watch all the time, like our shows and shorts, and how do we now translate this same exact thing to a game? We don't just animate it like we animate a short, because that's a different process. The whole thing has to be made differently now so that our developers are able to actually work with it. So working with them and also understanding they know their department well, and working with me to kind of figure out, along with our devs, to figure out what the best solutions were. It's just the matter of communication and being transparent and all that. I could give you, I mean, that's a cliche answer. I could give you the boring stuff, like I use this program and this program and that program to track things. There's many different ways you could do it, and there is no one right way to do it. No one necessarily taught me how to do exactly the way that I'm doing it now, right? You have to always be adaptive to whatever it is the project. The way I produced, the season and the show is completely different than the way we produced the shorts in many regards. And then the way that those two things are produced, way different than the game. It's a matter of adapting to what the project is, communicating with your team, and finding out what the best route and solution is. So a long-winded answer to a very cliche question and answer.
From a production standpoint, it's got to be a little bit easier making something that's a digital form than like, with your game Joking Hazard, like, because you don't have to worry about printing and shipping and physical space and storage and all that stuff, right? Because it lives in the internet, in the series of tubes on the internet.
I mean, I guess it's all very dependent, right? Shipping a box of something that contains a bunch of cards is one thing versus figuring out how to bring a character to life and make that work so that a stranger in another household can control it the way that they would want to control it. So it all is dependent on the project, like play testing, the cards for Joking Hazard or Trial by Trolley and stuff. That's a completely different process that takes years. I mean, just people sitting down, constantly playing the game and seeing what works and what doesn't work. Because the tricky part about that too is everything is subjective, right? Like we work in a medium that's humor. So some people are going to find it funny, some people aren't. And so having a lot of those tests and screening, is, again, even that in itself is a whole nother process and difference. But it's exciting, and it's cool to have those different problems because it makes it interesting. Like if we were just doing the shorts and it was just a streamlined black and white process all the time, we love what we make, but that's going to get boring eventually. So having the new things come up and finding new ways to do stuff is always exciting because it's the challenge I think everyone likes, and that's what also makes everyone, at least with our team, so good at what they do, because everyone's always kind of curious about what can we do here to make this more interesting and better. I mean, we've made shorts that are way over the top, like way larger and more expansive than they really needed to, but it was also the excitement of figuring out that, oh, we could do this new thing here. How can we implement this for future down the road? And so, yeah, I mean, not to say at all that making the cards and putting that in a box and shipping is any easier. That's just a different process, right? And it's almost non-comparable in a lot of ways. So, yeah.
Now, Roger, we talked about before, point-and-click adventure games, kind of are a dime. There are not a lot of them around these days. But can you talk about some of the specific challenges for you in designing a genre like that you don't really see a lot of over other genres like fighting or, online shooting or RPG, stuff like that?
I think one of the main things that we addressed is a ways into the project, we realized that we wanted to get rid of like the classic, bottom menu where you're just clicking on something and always dragging it up to, or a verb-based interface and stuff. So we wanted to just kind of free up more of the screen space overall, because the more screen space you have, the more things you can interact with and more puzzles and challenges you can have in there. But we also, one of the things I think that keeps a good number of people away from point-and-click adventures is they're, traditionally, with a mouse and a keyboard and stuff. You wouldn't expect to really play that on something like a Nintendo Switch. So we actually have a great interaction system, targeting system that works with triggers on pretty much any gamepad controller, or on the Switch, for example, with the Joy-Cons, the triggers, so that it'll actually move around the screen instantly to the next object you can interact with based on where your cursor is at the time. So a lot of those things, it just didn't exist in the past, for those classic games. So we really just wanted to make it feel good no matter what you're playing it on. And as a purist who grew up and loves using a mouse and keyboard, I play this game with just an Xbox controller plugged into my PC quite a lot. I really do, probably 50-50 at this point when I'm testing aspects of the game and stuff. So if anything's a testament to just how comfortable it is to play with a controller, it's that. So I think we've come a long way from where the game was when we first had it in development. So I'm really happy with that aspect of it. And I'm sure Chris can chime in more on that too.
Yeah, I think Roger said it best. Kind of the exact same situation for me as far as getting it to work on controllers and just I have always been a mouse and keyboard guy as well. With this, and testing the game, once we started working on those controls and implementing them, I definitely used controller more than anything else. But yeah.
Now to kind of segue into another question, I mean, you guys obviously have the two most important platforms, in my opinion, which is Switch and PC. So do you have any plans for Xbox and PlayStation down the line?
We have plans. We have goals. We don't have anything we could say officially yet, but we're absolutely interested and are aiming for it.